Hello and welcome to Future Proof Your Skillset. My name is Craig Steele. I'm going to be your host this morning and I'm also a digital skills trainer. So I run hands-on training that helps boost people's digital skills. Sometimes it's about improving people's confidence using technology, or sometimes it's more advanced topics, things like cybersecurity or working with data and artificial intelligence. But I know that nowadays, no matter what job or industry you're in, digital skills are important. And thank you very much for joining us this morning. And I want to start by finding out a bit more about who is joining us today. What was it that made you decide to come to this session? So we've got a poll for you. Thank you, Daniel. So while you answer that, let me introduce you to my co-host who's just brought up the poll. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Yeah, hello, Greg. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see you all. So I'm Daniel. I'm an engineer and an educator. I've actually changed job and career path a couple of times thanks to boot camps and short courses. So this is something that I'm really, really into. So I work with Craig writing and delivering training and all different things digital. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's hybrid, and sometimes it's totally online, just like the session today. But we like everything to be quite interactive. So we're going to be asking you to send in questions throughout the session. So looking at the poll, I can see that quite a few of you have answered. We'll maybe give you another 30 seconds to lock in your answers. It's a bit like the least exciting version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So we have a bit of a split response though, Craig, looking at the early results.
Yeah, so we asked you what motivated you to participate in today's session. So your options are: I'm considering a career change, I'm thinking about re-entering the workforce, or I'm aiming to future-proof my skill set and my current role. So for those that have answered so far, Daniel, what's the responses been?
Yeah, so it's looking like about a 60-40 split between people who are looking to future-proof their existing skill set, and then about 40% of you are considering career changing. And thinking about re-entering the workforce, that's a much smaller proportion of who we've got in the room at the moment. So that's really helpful for us. We can steer our questions in that direction.
Today, you'll learn about how upskilling and reskilling in digital skills could not only boost your current career, but also can lead to exciting new opportunities as well. So things like software development, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, or working with data are critical digital skills that are sought by employers across Scotland. And these skills will be essential as the digital economy grows. But it's not just for people who want to change roles completely. By upskilling, you can drive positive change within your current organisation using the latest tech. But how do you get started?
Yeah, so this morning you're going to hear from our guests. So these are people who have successfully upskilled or retrained. So Craig is going to be speaking to Staci, Uisdean, and Hassan about how they've upskilled and the impact that it's had on them and their careers. And then I'm going to be speaking to some representatives from some learning providers. So I'll be speaking to David, Kat, and Marc to talk about the opportunities that their companies offer and how you can get started on your journey to enhancing your own digital skills. Towards the end, we'll explain some different upskilling options that are open to you. So things like free resources you find online, boot camps, college courses, apprenticeships, things like that. We're going to point you towards the next steps that you might need to take. So like we're saying, this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have any questions for our panel, you can put them in the Q&A box and we'll put your questions to the guests later on. And remember, you don't need to be a tech expert to benefit. You don't need to already have a tech background to get something out of the session today. Scotland's digital economy covers all sectors. It's not just tech companies. And digital skills underpin lots and lots of roles these days.
Fantastic, Daniel. So let's meet our first guests. So let's speak to some of the learners who've recently been going through an upskilling process. So hello to Uisdean and Staci and Hassan. Hello this morning. Nice to see you all.
Hello, Greg.
So hello. And hello, Staci, as well.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm going to speak to each of you in turn, but let's start with you, Uisdean. So previously you had a completely different role. So tell us what it is the role you're doing just now. And then I want to know a bit about your backstory, a bit about how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, of course. So currently I'm working as a junior RPA developer. RPA is robotic process automation. So that is essentially just automating processes that workers or workforces would be doing that would be beneficial to be automated. So working currently with a lot of accountancy firms and a lot of data entry for stuff like dairies and quite varied sort of clients. But yeah, essentially just taking processes that people would be doing manually and automating them, which doesn't sound very exciting, but I find it very, very, very exciting. So yeah, previously before this, was doing a number of roles. I left school, I was in the Merchant Navy, and then I was doing night shift at a supermarket for a while, and then I was working at an airport, and then I qualified as a joiner. But sort of overarching throughout that entire time since I left school, I always found myself going home and just messing about on my computer, following sort of YouTube kind of courses. So a couple of years ago, or last year really, I said to myself, why don't I try and make a career of this? Why don't I try and upskill or reskill essentially from what I was doing to something that I just felt if I enjoy doing it in my spare time, then there's a very good chance I'll enjoy doing it as a career. So I started seriously sort of following along YouTube courses and looking online. So first of all, yeah, YouTube stuff, and then I found CS50 and the Odin project. I couldn't recommend CS50 more highly to anyone that's considering anything about coding really.
So
But
CS50 is an online module that you can do from, is it Harvard?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can follow online and you can watch the lectures on YouTube anytime in your own time, and then you sort of enter your code in and you get it marked automatically. It's a really, really well thought out, good free course, and I'd really recommend that.
And the Odin project, which was the other one you mentioned, is it more focused on web development? Is that right? Or
Exactly. So I didn't even end up finishing the Odin project, but I still found it very, very beneficial, just to sort of learn the basis of the languages used for that. But yeah, that's another very highly recommended course, more focused on web development.
So you did a bit of that sort of like initial sort of trying these things out, realizing that you might have had a talent for it, you were skilled in it. How did you then take it to a more, you did something a little bit more formal after that, didn't you?
Exactly that. So yeah, I was doing this while I was working as a joiner. So I'd be going home and doing this. And then I decided to really sort of go for it. I quit my job as a joiner and I found a 12-week RPA course with the School of Automation. And that was, yeah, a 12-week sort of boot camp to take you from, very introductory level RPA to, quite an advanced level of RPA towards the end of it. So yeah, did that, found that great. With everything, the more you can do in your own time is very, very beneficial. And yeah, from that, I managed to get myself a job with my current company, FD Intelligence, as an RPA developer, which is brilliant. That's exactly what I was looking for, and it's been brilliant. I couldn't recommend it more to anyone that's looking for a career change to just go ahead and do it, because I've got a better work-life balance. I'm in a career that I enjoy. There's progression on the horizon. It's yeah.
So
really
what
enjoying
would you
it.
say then has been the biggest benefit for you then from making that switch? Because obviously, to be working in one area or one industry, it sounds like you've had quite a few different jobs to go from merchant navy, joiner, lots of different roles. What's been the benefit then of switching and sort of upskilling into digital skills and in this new role?
Well, for me, the biggest benefit is waking up and not dreading going to to work for your work day. It's the first job I can truly say that I really do enjoy it. And yeah, if you can find work in something that you truly enjoy, it sounds cliche, but it honestly doesn't feel like work a lot of the time if it's something you genuinely find interesting and fun to do.
Mhm.
So
Do you
yeah,
work remotely?
yes, I do, and that is another unbelievably big benefit. So I live very remote west coast of Scotland. I live in Pooleu, near Gairloch. Probably no one's heard of it, but yeah, it's really back and beyond. So the ability to work this job remotely, one, I think working from home's incredible benefit for those that are able to do it. You don't have to commute. I've got a baby coming in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be amazing to be able to spend, you know, a lot more time at home than I would if I was working at the office. But also where I am in Scotland, if I wasn't able to work from home, I wouldn't have this opportunity because I wouldn't be able to commute to an office the entire time. So yeah, that's another massive benefit of this sort of career, is the majority of places now do give you hybrid or the ability to work from home.
That sounds like it's made a big difference to you then, because
Massive difference.
The sort of being, and I think that's something that's really important, and especially you might be someone might be living somewhere in Scotland but still is that is normally a bit more remote or doesn't have access to local companies that might need these skills, but actually you can work for organizations no matter where you are in the country. And it sounds like you've taken advantage of that. You've upskilled, you've changed career, and you're getting a lot of the sort of other benefits from it as well as like the learning new skills and better career progression for you as well. I'm so glad for you.
Yeah, no, it really has been an amazing change over the last couple of years in sort of quality of life, quality of work life, and sort of how I'm looking towards the future career-wise. It's all sunshine.
So if you've got a question for Uisdean, you can leave us a question in the chat. We'll come back and we'll put some questions to our panelists as well. But one question that I've got for you just now, Uisdean, is like, some people might be in the same position as you where they're maybe in a job right now. You sort of alluded to the fact you maybe weren't enjoying it as much. What would you say to someone who is thinking at that stage that they might want to start along that path? What would you say to them?
I would say if you're seriously thinking about it, then go for it. It's one of them things where I was humming and hawing for a long time, and I wish I'd made the jump a lot sooner. Because I feel like when you're in a job that is right, it's right for you. So I feel like if you're questioning yourself as to whether your current job is right or whether you're truly enjoying it, I would say just make the change. It's not as scary as you think. And if this is, whatever it is in the sort of technological sphere, if it's something that you really enjoy doing, then it won't feel like a chore to be learning about it or to be progressing in that. So yeah, I'd say start doing a couple courses, follow along on YouTube, try and find what it is particularly that you enjoy, and then start messing about with that, start having fun with it. And if it's something that you do find fun, I think boot camps are probably the best way that you could very quickly get into that field, especially without a degree. I don't have a degree in anything, let alone anything tech related. So yeah, if you're not a graduate, I'd say try and find a boot camp and then progress from there.
That's great. Thank you very much. So stay with us. We'll have some questions for you, I'm sure, coming in. And actually, I can see some questions coming in just now. But we'll move on now to Staci. Hello, good morning, Staci. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So you have had a bit of a different journey coming through your career then as well. Tell us a little bit more about the role that you're doing just now, and then maybe if we can go back to find out how you started as well.
Absolutely. So I am, my current role is IT business partner at Uisdean Golf Links. So what that kind of means is I run projects and data analytics and a couple of other things, but I'll touch on that in a second. My background is kind of a very opposite to what I do today. I started off as a bank teller and working in the financial sector at an entry level position. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the UK, I'm from the USA. So education's quite different over there. So I always felt it was a hurdle that I would never really jump into. So when we moved over here, I was fortunate enough to get my current company that I work with, Uisdean Golf Links. I was able to open the door by showing I had a bit of interest in technology and that I was keen to, prove that I could do something. So they then linked me in with QA, who I've gotten 3 different certifications through, specifically with data analysis and IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. I have so much respect for coding and for all of that, but it was never something that I was going to be good at or that I had a natural talent for. So I kind of felt that maybe this technology wasn't what I wanted to do, or maybe I didn't understand. But when I kind of got into this role, I very much realized it's strategy. It's looking at some other things. It's not necessarily knowing the nitty-gritty, but knowing who to connect and how to put things together to lead the project or to get the data on the other side of it. So that's kind of a snapshot of how I got here today. Along with the coursework, so I did an apprenticeship, if you would. So there was internal ones that I worked with, as well as QA, to learn what I do know today. With cybersecurity, I'll give that one as an example. I would do my research or find out how best practices were, and QA would give me guidance, but then I would put it into reality. And sometimes you learn that what you learn through the books and the coursework doesn't always work out in the day-to-day practicals. So it was really good to get that extra information whilst also learning the day-to-day that, here's what you're supposed to do, but in reality, here's some challenges you're going to face that maybe aren't in those books. So hands-on learning has been really great for me.
So am I right in thinking then that your role that you were in, so you were at Carnoustie Golf Links, and did they identify that they had like a gap? They needed someone with that sort of cybersecurity experience. Is that how it happened? And then you put yourself forward for that? Yeah,
so it actually started with data. Our model here with the golf course has shifted. Golf as an industry is kind of it follows a historical trend, and it's just a sport sort of mentality. But we're really cutting edge when it comes to the industry of golf, and we look to revolutionize. We have it's things like the simulators, the performance center simulators. We're capturing a lot of data around swings and the impact on the ball. And whilst if you're not into golf, none of it's interesting. But from a data standpoint, there's some really interesting things that, a slight change to your left wrist will have an impact too. So it's taking that. I kind of highlighted this to one of our PGAs to just say, oh, I think this minor change could have this impact. And that opened the door for me. We then began talking about, well, actually, other than data, here's some other stuff where we don't really have an internal IT team. And over the course of the last 3 years, we've gone from using an external MSP, which is a provider externally to do our IT, to now in-house. We're looking at projects, we're looking at our cybersecurity, a lot of different IT infrastructure that we never had before. We now are bringing in-house and moving forward. So no IT team 3 years ago, and now we're quite robust and changing things every day.
It's brilliant. So what has that benefit then? So that upskilling process, your employer supported you with that, helped you do it. Was it over a couple of years? It sounds as if it was like maybe a couple of years process. It wasn't like a boot camp style.
No, each course that I took about a year to do. It's kind of go at your own pace. If I wanted to do it faster, I could have done it. Matter of fact, my last one only took me about 6 months. So it is how you want to do it. I started with a level 6 SVQ and then moved up from there. Once I had the level 6, I then kind of specified to data analytics, and then I went to the cybersecurity. So each one built on top of the other, but I could have done it in any order. It wasn't necessarily that was the right order. And each one did benefit. We looked at the data analytics, for example. That was what we were focusing on that year, and it worked perfectly. But then the next year, cybersecurity popped up as a big concern. So it worked perfectly to navigate to that one.
What's been the benefit for you for doing this?
So personally, not only has it given me confidence, it's also given me a wealth of resources. I now have contacts through QA or through my fellow classmates in QA to reach out to now and ask questions or just get best practices from them. It's not necessarily that they'll have all the answers, but just to be able to kind of toss the ideas around or have a conversation around it has been amazing.
That sounds great. So it sounds like, you've improved your own skills, you've improved your own career prospects. Like, I would imagine that the way that you're talking about it, clearly data, cybersecurity is something that you're really interested in, and now you're getting to do that as well. And I think that for a lot of people as well, they might think of like sport or golf. They might be really interested in these things, but they don't realize that actually digital skills can be really useful and valuable in those areas as well. And I think you've shown that like your employer is really benefiting from those skills that they've helped you develop as well. So I think that's again another brilliant story about you going a different way where you've done it through an internal sort of development. It's not as if you've had to change career completely.
And I would highlight too that especially it being a golf industry, it's not naturally you think of technology or IT, but it's there. And I think there's a market within every industry for IT to sit within it. A lot of what I do today, obviously I've spoken on the data analytics and cybersecurity. I lead projects for a lot of different departments. So I'm learning a lot about the retail environment because we have to do their EPOS systems and looking at, there's just a lot of opportunity there. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to know the nitty-gritties. You just need to be able to take a risk and step forward into it.
What would you tell someone who's maybe really enjoying their current role but sees an opportunity somewhere where they work? Or what would you say to them who's thinking about upskilling?
I would definitely say don't be hesitant. I found with my current employers, having those conversations and kind of putting it out there that you have an interest, you might think that there's no opportunity, but just engaging with them and saying, this is something I'm interested in. I'd like to move forward with it. Even if you're not quite sure that you have the right skill set or the right knowledge, the right people will come in place. You'll get to that point. So don't be hesitant. Make those calls and reach out to whoever you need to just kind of say, this is something I'm interested in, and see where it goes from there.
Thank you very much, Staci. Stay with us. If you've got a question for Staci, you want to ask about her experience, her journey, you can send us a message in the chat as well. We'll come back to them in a few minutes' time. Thank you, Staci. Let's move on now to Hassan. Good morning, Hassan. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So, Hassan, you are a recent upskiller. Tell me more about what you've been working on recently.
So last year, December, I graduated from the university. So I'm in the state of looking for job, searching for job in the energy sector. So I decided in this process of searching for job and looking for my dream job, I decided to look for a skill to upskill that would be helpful in that part of my job career. So I decided to enroll for a 2 week course with direct partners to learn more about digital technology. And during that time, the experience was very enriching and fun because everything you're doing, you should be able to enjoy doing it. And during that time of learning the course, which just concluded in February this month, we went through learning from the simple ones, from moving from like PowerPoint, learning PowerPoint, Excel, to now moving to a little bit of coding. So in this case, if you're like a beginner and you're looking for something to start up with, like upscaling, because sometimes it's difficult to just jump to cybersecurity the way the rest we're talking about. So it's better to try to learn the basics first, and which was really good. And apart from that, there are so many things also that I learned through the course, because I went in to learn about digital technology, which is what I really needed to learn properly. But at the same time, I had so many other things that I learned all together. Learn how to present yourself in a workplace. Did like mock interviews, because currently I've been applying for jobs and I've been gotten to the interview stage. So I needed something that would prepare me so I could be able to present myself properly, and which I really enjoyed in the course. But basically, the digital technology experience was just top notch at the end of the day.
I think you make a really good point there, Hassan, as well. Like, so you've completed your degree, but you recognize that every modern workplace needed some level of digital skills. And what you said there about I bet there's a lot of people who have joined this webinar today who might be like, I don't know enough about cybersecurity or automation or programming. That's not me, but I'm still interested in learning digital skills. Whereas on the course that you were doing, there were much more sort of like fundamental skills. You mentioned things like using PowerPoint, using Teams software as well. What was your favorite sort of digital skill that you learned on the course?
Oh, I think Excel.
Mhm.
And the reason is people sometimes look at it as if it's simple, but I think it's a really powerful tool because I'm more inclined in the energy sector. And in this case, we're all looking or advocating for a sustainable energy. And in order to do that, we need to be able to analyze the data we have. So to look at this data and analyze this data properly, you need to have what is his name? Software like Excel and Python, which you'll be able to analyze data properly. And the thing I love about Python is how to present your words, and because sometimes it's difficult to use words, but when you have like more picture, graph,
Yeah.
pie chart and
Visualization.
things, yeah, things like that, it helps you for people to quickly see the picture and convey the message you want. So I really love Excel. And the good thing about the course, as I said earlier, is that you're moving from like a beginner level. So it mustn't be like, oh, I'm scared, I don't have any idea. So you learn from basic, the cell, everything, which was really good.
That's brilliant. And it sounds like it was quite a short experience, wasn't it? Was it a couple of weeks, did you say the
Yeah,
course
it was
was?
2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. So I think everybody, maybe during your holiday, you can just
Yeah,
decide to just go for the program and see and look at it in a different way because it can be helpful. Because sometimes it's difficult to just move from a job you're doing, move into
Mhm.
a new career. So you just need maybe a short period of time to test other things. So that's why I really recommend the course because it's just 2 weeks. And within those 2 weeks, you'll be able to see, is this what I like doing? Is this what I would love doing? And if that is something, you can easily make the leap and move directly.
That's brilliant, Hassan. And I think what I took from what you were saying there was that's a short course that is the type of thing where if you were thinking about it, you weren't sure, trying it out for a short period of time, you're not having to commit to a full year, you're not having to commit to, a really intensive process. I think that a lot of people could get started along those lines as well. So thank you very much, Hassan, for that as well.
Thank you.
We've got time for a few questions, and we'll stay for all three of us, and then we'll switch to Daniel speaking to the learning providers in a second. So, what am I going to let me have a look, see what's been coming in. Yeah, okay. So, a question here. Let's go for Staci. I'm going to ask you this question. So you were talking about cybersecurity as the area that you're working in. What is a common myth about that profession or that field that you're working in that you would want to maybe debunk?
I would say that the myth that you need to know everything or that you need to be a super coder or a super hacker to be good at the role. A lot of it is practical knowledge and sharing that on to your employees or your staff that you have around you. So I would definitely say just you don't have to know everything to get started with it. And you also will learn as you go. We definitely have a lot of situations where, it's never happened. We don't think about it. And then suddenly it does happen. And we need to kind of go through that stage of, okay, well, how to react to this and reaching out to your pool of knowledge to get a bit more information on that.
That's great. Thank you. We've had a question from Anupama. This is just a sort of general question about can we keep a note of the sort of recommendations that every panelist has made, what courses they tried out, what YouTube videos they found useful? The answer is, yeah, I'm sure everyone will be happy to share that. We can email that out at the end. So rather than going through all the names or putting the links into the chat, we'll gather them all off of everyone at the end and we can email you that afterwards. Next question that I've got here is let's go for you, Uisdean. So the question is, how did you manage to do things like self-studying alongside the job that you were currently doing, or did you have to break away and make a switch completely when you were doing your course?
So yeah, initially I was doing both my full-time job and studying for this. I guess yeah, as long as you're disciplined, I didn't find it too difficult. I guess because I was doing quite a physical job, I quite enjoyed the time on my PC. It's not like I was doing an office job and then additional time on the PC. But even then, I think that would have been fine. But yeah, it's discipline, isn't it? And when it's something that you know yourself that you want, I didn't find it too hard to do. And like I was saying before, it's something that I found enjoyable and interesting and rewarding. So that's kind of its own motivation in itself. And it's just very rewarding being able to see, like Hassan was saying, over the course of a week or a month or whatever, thinking, hey, a week ago I couldn't do this and now I can. It's a brilliant feeling, seeing and feeling yourself progressing in something. When it came to, so yeah, I was doing that alongside, and then it came to doing the boot camp, and that I wouldn't have been able to do that alongside my full-time job. So yeah, that was the scariest leap for sure, because I didn't have any employment set up for afterwards. But I felt like you've only got one life, you may as well make a shot at it. So I took that jump and very glad that I did. But that definitely is a scary step, going from having something secure to essentially having no security for whatever period of time that takes you.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people will be thinking that when they look, when they're here today and they're thinking about these things. But I think from the experience all three of you guests have had, it shows that if you've got that right attitude and you find the right opportunity for you, whether it's a short course or whether it's something a bit more involved, then you can still get something out of it on a different level, whether it's making a change completely or it's just upskilling, future-proofing yourself in terms of these digital skills as well. Thank you very much for our first set of guests. So we were speaking to people who've been through this learning process. We're going to switch now. Daniel, I'm going to tag you in. You're going to be talking to our other guests.
Yes, so hello. In this next section, we're going to be having a chance to meet some learning providers. So joining me now is Marc Cooper, who's the CEO of ABP School of Automation, Kat Roberts, who is the Tech Programme Lead at Direct Tech Training Scotland, and also David Hanna, who is the Head of Delivery Apprenticeship Scotland at QA. So I think first we'll take a slightly different format for this half of the session. We'll do some slightly shorter questions and we'll rotate around between us. So just to get us started, and so the audience has a feel for what your organisations do and what they could be asking you questions, maybe if you could, one by one, tell us your name and then tell us a bit about what the offering is that your companies have. So maybe if we start off with Marc. Hi, Marc.
Hi, Daniel. So I'm Marc Cooper. I'm the CEO of this School of Automation. The School of Automation offer training courses across the UK and Ireland. We run an online 12-week boot camp, just like Uisdean had said, in automation and intelligent automation. Probably what is that very quickly is it's automating business processes using a particular piece of software. Right? So that's probably the most simplistic way to say it. But there's lots of detail within that, but yeah, I can delve into that.
Great, thanks, Marc. And how about you, Kat? What does Direct Tech Training offer learners?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Kat. I work for Direct Partners, and we've basically been championing people to upskill and move into employment for over 20 years now. More recently, my more exciting job is to launch Direct Tech Training Scotland. So this is our Tech Skills Academy, and it was created to bridge the tech skills gap and also give you the entry-level skills that are needed to apply for your first role in the tech industry.
Great, thank you. And David, could you maybe introduce the audience to QA and the area of QA that you lead on?
Thanks. Good morning, Daniel, and good morning to everyone that's joined today. So I represent QA Apprenticeships, so the clue's in the title. What we deliver, devolved within Scotland on behalf of QA is tech and digital apprenticeships. We have a directly awarded public funded contract with Skills Development Scotland. So we're an approved provider with them to deliver modern and technical apprenticeships. That's SEQF level 6 and SEQF level 8 for those of you that are up to speed on your academic certifications in Scotland. And as I say, we deliver a number of approved awards which are awarded by the Scottish Qualifications Authority in IT, digital and business areas of sectors and qualifications. And our awards are normally around the 12-month mark in respect of duration. And you work directly for an employer if you're successful with one of our awards. So it's a vocational qualification and vocational learning where most of the time is spent in the workplace with us supporting and delivering.
Great. Thank you, David. So I think it's really nice that no matter where you are in your process, if you're watching along, we've got 3 learning providers that all offer something slightly different. It's from sort of very short courses through to sort of boot camps and then onto apprenticeships, which is something you would commit to over a longer period of time. And each organization offers slightly different specializations as well, which I'm sure we'll dig into over the next 10 or 15 minutes. So I've got a few questions here that are a mixture of things that have been submitted both before the session and have come in at the moment. But I think perhaps first we could come to you, Kat, and ask you, what are the sort of different programs that you have available for individuals that are looking to upskill in digital skills?
Yeah, so we kind of have 5 main options depending on where you are in your journey. If you're a complete beginner, you can come and do a taster session with us. This will last about an hour, mostly online. It just gives you an insight to different tech disciplines, whether that's cyber, data, software. Just gives you a taste of what skills are required and the different pathways that you can take to get into employment. Then the next step would be to come and do an initial assessment. It's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. That this would just test if you have the natural skills like problem solving, logical reasoning that would indicate you'd be a good fit in the tech sector. This could be just the confidence boost that some people need to start their upskilling journeys. We also offer 2-week, 4-week, 6-week short courses that upskill in different disciplines. And then we have our accelerated 14-week bootcamp. So that's the Professional Development Award accredited by SQA. So that can give a learner the skills they need to become a junior software developer. And then finally, our last option, our longest program, is the Modern Apprenticeships as well. So very similar to what David was saying. We have a contract with Skills Development Scotland, accredited by SQA again, and we offer them in a range of disciplines. And the other great thing to note about Modern Apprenticeships is that we can often get full funding for 16 to 24-year-olds and either full or partial funding if you're 25 plus. So that can also help relieve the financial burden for employers as well and hopefully act as an incentive for more people to upskill.
Super, thanks, Kat. I think that financial burden is something that a lot of people are worried about, or it's something that it's a question of how much is it down to me, how much of it is down to the employer, especially if the role maybe doesn't quite exist. So it's good to know that there are funded positions available. We've had a question come in from the audience here, and maybe Marc, I'm going to come to you with this one. And Carrie is asking, are digital skills just for young people? So when you look at the cohorts that you've had come through the School of Automation, what are the kind of demographics that you've had, and how open would you say it's been?
Yes, in our experience, it's been really open in terms of age range. Particularly at the school, automation developers. I think when we first started at school, we had a 16-year-old from Glasgow come all the way through our course, and he's now 3 years in the sector as a developer. So as early as 16, as long as you're able to undertake work, leave school, etc. So as early as possible, and then as we've actually had people in their 50s just looking to totally upskill, reskill, change jobs. So really the age range is not a barrier. I would say the biggest thing is about attitude to learn. And I think there's been some examples from Uisdean Hassan and Stacey, just about, we've got different age ranges, but if you really want to learn something and you really dedicate yourself and commit yourself, you can do it, right, regardless of your age.
Super. I see a lot of nodding across the panel there. I think, yeah, absolutely about attitude. I think there's a myth that you can't learn things once you hit a certain age, and that's just not true. So thinking a bit about the kind of background that people have going into things, a question maybe I'll direct to you, David. People have asked if you need to have quite a technical background to enter in an apprenticeship. So you mentioned that you've got apprenticeships at different SCQF levels.
Mhm.
The technical background do you need to have, but do you need to have many qualifications before going into one of these more technical apprenticeships?
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel. It's a very good question. And some of my answer will be in sync with what Marc has just said around, reducing or having no barriers and no preconceptions around things. Certainly for the SCQF level 6 apprenticeships that we deliver, which is what a modern apprenticeship is awarded at, we don't have any prerequisites in respect of prior school qualifications or anything that anyone has done previously in their career, depending on their age and how long they've either been in work or are brand new to work, as Marc said, as young as 16. So what we like to do, again in line with what Marc said, is it's about helping employers understand what the aspirations and the attitudes and the kind of expectations are of candidates and what they want to achieve. And I think all three of our panelists have spoken, our learner panelists have spoken far better than I can about what it's really like to experience that transformation of change and development and opportunity. But certainly what we're looking for with candidates in modern apprenticeships is to work with employers to understand the potential people have and as I say, the motivation that they have to work in the tech sector. It's true that the technical apprenticeships that we are approved to deliver at SCQF level 8, we do have to show some form of either prior experience working within the sector. But what tends to happen with SCQF 8 is, and I'm sure this will apply to a lot of people who have joined the session today, and that's the purpose of the call, is around, there'll be many individuals who are in organisations, and Staci absolutely covered this in her journey, which is that they may not realise that they already have a certain level of understanding of digital skills and the competencies within the tech that their employers, their organisations either already use, but they're just perhaps not in that particular role or that particular team at the moment, or the area is a gap which has been identified, but there's no one filling it, as Staci spoke so very well about. So every individual's opportunities are different but similar, but where possible, we try to make barriers around previous academic attainment or experience within sectors. We try to minimise them as much as possible, and I think Marc already spoke well about that from his perspective as well.
Great, thanks, David. So yeah, it is really just about finding the right thing for the right person that fits in the company, and it's a lot about sort of like matchmaking and finding where your space is.
Correct. Yeah. And if someone, sorry, if I can just add, if someone applies as a candidate within QA apprenticeships, we have a placement team who actually are the first kind of the first individuals that someone would deal with, and they'll look at people's prior experience, prior attainment, etc., and look at the different levels of, is it SCQF 6, is it SCQF 8, are they in employment now? All of these factors are considered, and we then look to match that person up potentially with the employer that we think suits best for their opportunities and what they're looking to gain, whether it's reskilling, upskilling, etc. And likewise with employers, we help them identify existing staff members who could have that opportunity to sidestep into a different role and develop within tech or data, for example.
Great, thanks, David. Kat, maybe I could bring you in on something that's quite similar to this. So I think a lot of the learners that will come to one of your courses will maybe perhaps not be in a job, or they're looking to do something slightly different to what they've got a background in. What kind of support is there available to the learners in finding an appropriate role after they've undertaken a course or a workshop with you?
Yeah, definitely. So we fully understand the importance of employability skills as well as the technical skills. So all of our courses have a two-pronged approach where tech instructors will equip you with the necessary technical skills in whatever discipline you've decided to go down, and our employability trainers will upskill your employability. So we help signpost relevant roles, we look at refreshing CVs, cover letters, and interview prep. Because at the end of the day, if your CV or your application is not strong enough, then you won't even be able to get in the room with an employer to discuss your technical skills. So it's just very important that everyone who comes through our courses, as well as being technically ready, are job application and interview ready as well.
Great. Thanks, Kath. And Mark, just before we bring up the rest of the panel back, I guess it's probably something quite similar with the School of Automation. Do you have relationships with the potential employers, or I imagine being in quite a specific field, people are really employable after they've gone through that boot camp?
Yeah, so ourselves, we're known and we're quite niche. We really focus on automation. I know digital skills is a really broad umbrella, and there's lots that you can learn within that. I would say is if you're just starting out looking at that, you can be overwhelmed with the amount of tech that you could possibly learn. So, probably do try and get some advice and see where your maybe skill set and what you enjoy doing. But for us, within automation, we're well known in the sector for what we do in terms of training and then transitioning people into careers, particularly in this area. We've got great partnerships with employers who use the software. We have partnerships and relationships with the vendors, the software vendors themselves. So we have quite an ecosystem of from us in terms of training to providers who use it to different clients, the actual tech vendors themselves. So yeah, we do. That's part of our job and our role is when we train anyone that comes through our program, how do we then link you with an opportunity in the sector? Uisdean explained exactly his pathway was that where he'd done the 12-week boot camp. And what I will say is it's not easy, right? And this is just the honest truth as well, is there's nothing easy. If you work hard at it, then that's when I would say the rewards come. And, an example of Uisdean on our course was he committed the time and effort to go and learn, right? And as he said, he was doing a lot of juggling from the day job to things at home. So he really put the time and effort, commitment, and he got the rewards at the end of it. Because one thing that we can't do is, I'm sure others will agree with this, is we can't tell an employer to employ you. That's not possible. But what we can do is we can prepare you as best we possibly can with the technical skills, with the interviews, the preparation, and then it's down to you to impress that employer, whether it's at an interview, application, etc., to then secure the job and the career. So there's different factors to consider in there, but yeah.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Mark. So just before we bring in the rest of the panel, there's a couple of questions that have come in for people who maybe aren't quite ready to commit to taking on a slightly bigger course. So there's a question that came in, are there taster courses available to help me understand what particular pathway I want to follow? And Angus has also asked, what are the best introduction to coding classes to use? Where can I find ones that are free? So I'll make sure that you get a link in the follow-up email, but there's a page on the My World of Work website, and that's run by Skills Development Scotland. And on there's links to lots of different reputable online upskilling providers. And so there's links to places like Coursera, Udemy, Microsoft Learn, edX. These are sort of short, self-paced courses that can be a good way of judging your interest in something before committing to something slightly bigger. So just to look at Angus's question, I had a look at some Python courses on offer. And here's one, I found one that takes maybe about 30 hours that you can take over about 10 weeks. So it's not too much of a time commitment. In fact, I think it's one that Uisdean mentioned earlier, the CS50 one. There's a Python specific one in there, and that's suitable for people who are new to programming or people who have experience of another language. So that might be a good place to start off. We'll make sure you get the link to that page on the SDS website sent afterwards. But yeah, explore the skills, see what suits you, and then you can work from there. But now I think because we've got maybe about 10 minutes of the session left, I want to give a chance for our learners to answer some more questions as well. So let's bring back the whole panel. We'll bring back Craig as well. And Craig, you've been keeping an eye on the chat, so maybe you can throw in some questions into the room.
Yes, I have. So you've still got a few minutes left. If you want to ask questions to any of our panel, you can put them in the Q&A box at the bottom. How we'll work this part of the sessions, because there's so many of us, I can put the question out, and whoever on the panel would like to answer it, you can raise your hand either virtually or in front of your screen, and then I'll call on you to answer it. There's one that came in that I think is going to be quite easy to answer. Is there an age criteria for apprenticeships? So I'll say this now, no, there's no upper limit for apprenticeship age ranges as far as I know, but sometimes the funding that might be available can be different. Is that for someone who's offering apprentices, is that the right answer, David?
Thank you, Craig. What you'll find with apprenticeships in Scotland is all contracts, as Kat mentioned, that are awarded by Skills Development Scotland. You will have an overall volume of starts awarded to you, Craig. So just say for talking sake, you're awarded 100 starts within the approved frameworks that you can deliver. Those 100 starts will run for the financial year, but they are then broken down, say between 50 or 55 of them will be starts that are focused on 16 to 19-year-olds. Maybe another 20 plus are focused on 20 to 24-year-olds, and then the rest on 25 plus. But that's usually the standard way a contract is awarded. But what that doesn't mean is that there are any restrictions that are matter of fact. There is opportunity for everyone and anyone. And as a provider, there are also opportunities you have with Skills Development Scotland that if you can show that there's demand in a particular geography or a particular employer, etc., then with SDS's support, etc., these contractual starts can be managed, to meet where there's opportunity and demand. So there is absolutely no clear restrictions on anything like age, for example. And I think everyone has spoken about that. We're really in the business, all of us, of trying to minimise barriers. But as Marc also pointed out, it's on the individuals to have that ownership to go on and achieve what they want to achieve.
Thanks, David. Okay, let's see. Another question. So this might be one for more of our learners. So what is one thing that you wish you'd known before you started your career in tech, the tech side of it? Who would like to volunteer an answer for that? Uisdean.
So yeah, I guess this is kind of following on to what Staci said earlier a little bit. Before I really kind of made the jump, I got myself really worried about having to know everything or look into everything or be super prepared for every situation that could come my way. But it's just not realistic. So I would say, yeah, don't worry about trying to learn absolutely everything or anything in a specific field, because there's always going to be curveballs and different things that are getting thrown at you anyway. So yeah, don't stress out about trying to be the best or anything like that.
That's great, thank you. Hassan? You're on mute, Hassan.
I just want to touch on what Uisdean just said, because sometimes people want to just know it, but they don't want to go through the process. And just a little bit of advice is that you should always know that once a professional or a specialist something was also a learner. So he was trying to look for how to learn through from the beginning. So if you're at that stage too, it's still possible. You don't need to know everything and you move on from there.
That's great, thank you. I've got a question that's come in here from Valerie, and I'll give Valeria, sorry, and I'll give an answer, but also maybe if someone else wants to join into that. So the question was more, shouldn't employers also help with the costs that comes along with upskilling and reskilling, because in the end they benefit from it as well? So it is true that there can be funding available that businesses can use to help support things like training costs as well. I'll make sure we include a link in the follow-up email. Skills Development Scotland have a page specifically for funding and training, that if you're an employer watching this and you think, I'd love to give some of my staff an upskilling experience, what funding might be able to help me with that? We'll give you the link to that in the follow-up email as well. I don't know if any other providers or if anyone wants to say anything about how employers can sort of deal with the costs involved in training. Marc.
Yeah, I suppose the question is, should employers contribute to the cost? Like, I would love to say yes, right? So yes, in an ideal world, yes, love employers to contribute to the cost. But the reality is, for an employer, and I sit in this position myself, we have a team, we have staff, there is budgets, there is different things to manage within a business. And it is, for an employer point of view, it is an investment of time. There's a cost to that. And there's a resource of other people to commit to train, learners or people that are maybe a little bit junior, less experienced, to come up into the business. So from an employer point of view, sometimes it's not always the cost in terms of revenue. It can actually be time, which is a big commitment, right? The employers in various programs, whether it's an apprenticeship or a boot camp or whatever, the ask of an employer can be in various ways, maybe not just in monetary terms. So ideally, we would love that to be the case, but it doesn't. But it's not always possible. But as you said, Craig, that there is maybe some funding available through the different programs. Maybe Skills Development Scotland, probably the best people to speak to if you were an employer, to see, can I access anything, right? Because there's lots of different, depending on what you're looking for.
That's great. Thanks, Marc. And yeah, just to make that clear, the My World of Work, which is the website run by Skills Development Scotland, is Scotland's careers website, and it gives a lot of different information and advice. When we send out the follow-up email from today, we'll make sure we include links to these things. Staci.
I just wanted to add on there that sometimes you as a employee may want to go to your employer, so your line manager or the HR team, and suggest what you've researched. So they may not be aware that there is funding available to them or that there is an opportunity. I know I've done that with mine to get further accreditations. Just having that conversation and maybe doing a bit of homework on your side to say, this is what I think I'd like to move forward with, and here's the funding to go along. Sometimes those conversations lead to where good opportunities.
Thank you, Staci. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I've had a great time hearing all these stories and all the sort of opportunities that are available as well. So it's time for us to thank our guests. So thank you, Staci, Kat, David, Marc, Hassan, Uisdean as well. It's been brilliant. Daniel, I think that's just about wrapping things up now.
Yes, so keep an eye on your inbox if you've been attending. We'll make sure that some resources get sent to you, but that's it from us. So it's bye from Craig.
Bye-bye.
And it's bye from me as well. And it's bye from our guests. So we'll see you next time. Bye.